Hello, welcome to Scotty's Playtime. I'm Scotty. I'm having a very good morning and I hope you are too. And I got up early and I decided since I hadn't done memes in a few days, I was going to run through some. And I found Blue Sky, the social media company, is a great place to get them. Looks good. So anyway, now what I want to do is I want to run through a few headlines, if you don't mind. I'm going to start with some Joe My God ones, because they're just so outrageous that, well, it's stunning. For example, the Trump administration wants Canadian snowbirds who come here from anywhere from 3 to 6 months during the winter. And why they come to Florida, I haven't figured out. But the Trump administration wants our good friends from Canada who keep the Florida economy going. Not just them, but all the visitors that come down here. Let's face it, we here who live here year-round could not keep the economy of Florida afloat without the influx of money. That's when restaurants really take off and have their blooming businesses. Their profit times is during season. Yes, the roads are crowded and sometimes you can't get into your favorite restaurant or you can't go where you want to go. The beaches are more crowded. But hey, it's, we got to give a little, we got to take a little. So anyway, they want them to register with ICE. Not only register, but be fingerprinted. Because all those Canadians are dangerous people. All those senior citizens who come here to spend money. And if you go on to the article, if you read the newspaper report about it, Canadians aren't coming. They're saying they've been insulted too many times. They're tired of constantly hearing that their leaders are called governors and that they're going to be the 51st state. And it just ain't going to happen. So, that's going to... I know here in the park I live in, the homes owned by Canadians are coming up for sale. They just don't want to come here anymore. So that was one headline. I'm going to try to move through these a bit quickly. Okay. The Trump administration has decided that any protest against Tesla is considered an act of domestic terrorism. Now, I think there was this little thing called the Constitution that had the right to protest in it, the right to address the government for grievances. I hurt my neck, and it's bothering me. I'm going to try not to wiggle my head all over the place. But if you're wondering why I'm doing it, it's because very stiff neck, and I want to hang my head this way. Anyway, so yeah, domestic terrorism for protesting. And Trump wants to revoke the citizenship for anybody who protests in favor of the Palestinians, against the bombing of Gaza, and against Israel. Now, it is not anti-Semitic to protest what the Israeli government is doing. Again, it's a right, and it's a way for the people to let our feelings be known. But of course, Trump and his crew are not interested in our feelings. They're only interested in our money. So, yeah, that's going to happen. That's great. Oh, and like I said, schools that have that allow Peaceful legal protests will have their money and funding slashed or cut completely by this illegal government run by a convicted felon. And I want to stress that. Trump is a convicted felon. So, all right, there's no need to hammer on this one anymore. Now, I want to talk about decorum. Used to be, you'd point to your senator or your governor or your Congress representative as statespeople. Hold them up to your kids. See, don't you want to be like him or her? Now, we get Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, who called the democratically elected congressman Al Green a pimp, and that he had a pimp cane. It was just a simple cane. I have canes similar to that, are mine, pimp canes, but he was black. And she goes on to attack him and referencing his cane as a pimp cane, and that if a gold-plated cane ain't a pimp cane, I don't know what is. I have canes that have golden colored handles on the top. It's standard. And so anyway, not only that, you have another GOP rep who Tommy Tuberville, since he wants to send all protesters to jail. Anybody who protests. Because they're not interested in your opinion, they're not interested in my opinion. What they are interested in is power and enriching themselves off the public treasury and from donations from wealthy. So anyway, but there was one here from a lawmaker who, maybe I didn't save it. I guess I didn't, but I'll just tell you about it. They were having a hearing, and Sarah McBride, who is a trans woman, and I wish we didn't have to put it that way. She is a woman. Her gender is female. She identifies as a woman. My gender is male. I identify as a male. So she was duly elected. She should be respected. Where's this decorum that the Republicans used to... Oh, the Democrats, they had a sit-in on the floor in the well of the House, and they didn't have any decorum. Well, in the meantime, anyway, shouting at Nancy Mace there. She's running around claiming that a handshake was an attack that broke her hand from a trans man or a man that supported trans rights or whatever. Well, she went around wearing a sling, her arm in a sling. Anyway, the Republican leading it, introduced her as Mr. McBride and refused to call her a woman. And when she wasn't going to make an issue of it, she's got the idea, and I support her on this, that ignore the stupid shit and just get to work. There is only 10 athletes in the professional sports leagues that are trans, and they're making all these bills against trans men or trans women in women's sports. Because it's such a crime wave, And in West Virginia, they passed a bill allowing assigned people the right to inspect young children's genitals, visually and physically, to inspect young people's genitals without consent, and the parents can't opt out. If you want your child to go to school there, if they think your little girl looks too butch or too whatever, somebody gets to yank her clothes off, pull her pants down, take a look. That's not going to scar a 9-year-old. If they're playing sports and Billy does not look masculine enough, somebody at the school gets to take Billy into a room, maybe with other people around, and pull down his pants and make sure he's got a dingler. I'm serious. I was an abused child. I know how scary and scarring that is. When I was in first grade, quick story, the teachers noticed my condition in that, and they knew something was going on. So the principal and a couple others had my teacher bring me to a room where she started helping me undress in front of them. And when little Scotty had his clothing taken off in front of adults at that age, it was not going to turn out good for little Scotty. So I cried and I begged and I promised if they'd be nice, I wouldn't tell. I promised I wouldn't tell. Well, they wanted me to tell. But of course, I was thinking I was going to be punished or hurt, and that if I just cooperated, and let them do what they wanted, which in my little mind was to abuse me. And so I know how traumatic it is for a child. And can you imagine going through puberty and having to show your body parts to an adult to prove which bathroom you can use, to prove whether or not what team you can be on? These people are crazy. So anyway, he refused, and the ranking Democrat, wasn't going to have it and demanded he introduce her right. And he tried again to say, Mr. McBride. And the Democrat said, wait a minute, have you no decency? I know you, and that's not a very Christian way to act. That's not decorum, and it's not up to the standards. And he said, you will not have this hearing with me in it if you keep this up. And the chairman of the meeting gavelled it out and said, meeting adjourned. Rather than call her by her gender she identifies as just a simple sign of respect, they stopped working, because it's much more important to insult somebody than it is to do the will of the people. Okay, I gotta move through these. I don't even know how long this one is. It says it's 13 minutes, so let me quickly run through these. Alrighty. Trump retaliates against Maine governor with funding freeze because, again, trans issues. She refuses to make sure kids that haven't even been through puberty are playing on the right team. I don't know about anybody else, but when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, there were girls there that were much better at sports than I was and could whoop little Scotty's ass. So anyway, so he's defunding their schools and all that shit. And because the king shall not be denied, the cult-leading felon king. The FBI moves to charge criminally climate change groups. Anybody who took money, there's this one group they're going after, had their bank accounts frozen. It's it's on the tip of my tongue. A former president started it. They built homes for poor people. Terrible, terrible organization. Defrauding the government. what was it? Homes for Humanity, Habitat for Humanity. They're going after that. This is what the FBI is now like under Trump, who claimed